220. All right, like I'm on the prepared stream, and it's not going live right now. Do you have it on a time limit? No, because it says right there, rating for Triforce of Epic on the stream. Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay. So you accidentally have multiple streams running somehow, but no, okay, it's fixed now. It's fixed. It's fine. It's okay. I'm gonna go ahead reading now. All right. Age 6. Shortly after I turned 6, it began to dawn to me that I was small and short statured compared to my other boys my age. The first inkling of my physical shortcomings occurred to me during the time playing softball in preschool. I mean, football in preschool. But it was, but it wasn't until that the cruel intentions of my cursed genetics were truly letting themselves be known. A seed of doubt to my inferior size began to grow during my frequent visits to Scenaria Park, where I saw the boys my age who were much bigger than me playing together. This was the seeds that would soon sprout during my family's trip to Universal Studios, where after waiting a full hour in line for Jurassic Park ride, my family then rejected due to my inability to meet the height requirement. Bro, that's sad. Elliot Roger had a rough. Okay. Page 19. Although it might not seem like a big deal anymore, this injustice traumatized my 6-year-old self, and I fell into a crying tantrum. The reminder of our Universal Studios trip was effectively ruined. Little did I know this injustice was very small indeed compared to all the things that I denied in my future because of my height. Over the course of the summer, sorry, I thought I heard something. My family continued having delightful get togethers with Maddie's family. She was the only friend I had retained from farm school, and as such, she retained her role as my best friend as well. Occasionally, she would have female friends visiting too. I had no problem playing with and having fun with a lot of them. I found it terribly ironic that during this time I had found it easy to interact with girls my age, but now I face nothing but rejection and cruelty from my female peers. I once wished I could go back in time and ask my younger self for the secret to interacting with female gender, but now I know the secret, the blissful, ignorant youth. At the start of the first grade, my family decided to move to it's always a difficult place to name. Topaga. Topanga. I'm just going to say it's Topanga. To Topanga, where I was to attend Topanga Elementary School. I was hesitant and upset even at the prospect of moving out of our first house in America, but move provided me for the best, as the years I had spent at Topanga Elementary would be some of the best years of my life. On the first day of Topanga, I was introduced to a boy named Philip who was asked by the teacher to show me around. I instantly had flashbacks to that vile, rotten scumbag Joey, and feared Philip was destined to betray me as well. However, Philip would instead become a lifelong friend to me. Hey, do you want to be good friends for like the next 16 years? Sure. Wait, what's going to happen in 16 years? I wonder. Could our protagonist may not be the protagonist? Or maybe an anti-hero? Okay. Page 21. Our pil- pilgrim- pilgrimage. Yes, pilgrimage. From England to there you go. From England was proving to be successful, as father's directing career was taking off quite well. He was hired to direct commercials by many prestigious companies and dreamed of one day transitioning over to feature films. The only downside was the lucrative employment that was many jobs required him to work far from home, and he would disappear for weeks at a time. I missed having my father around, but I still respected him as a powerful and successful man. This car's amazing. Oh my god. Oh my god. This gives me a movie idea. I was having a wonderful time in Topanga Elementary School. When I wasn't busy with playing with Philip, I became with a fun game called Kicking Dust. The game was simple. During recess, I would stand to a patch of dirt. I would kick it so a cloud of dust would form. It was exhilarating. It wasn't long before my classmate noticed my dust kicking antics and decided to join in the fun. His name was James, and although making fun of the dust kicking, he quickly became friends. We then decided that his house was down the street from mine, and our friendship extended beyond the gates of Topanga Elementary. And so the be, two of us did everything together. We played video games, went to the park, kicked dust. It wasn't long before James became my best friend, and our mothers even became friends too. Page 23. I bet I can kick my dust all my I bet I can kick my dust clouds higher than yours. Oh, you're on. Midway through the school year, I began to overhear my parents arguing more often than usual. I didn't think much of it, and I figured fighting and arguing was adults were meant to do. But then I made a discovery that was frightening to me. I learned that my parents can get a divorce and stop living together. This new concept was deeply concerning to me, and I expressed this fear to my mother. After all the fighting my parents been doing, I thought it was sure for a divorce. Would it be right around the corner? However, my mother quelled my fears and promised me that she and her father would never divorce. I believed her and my fears went away. But in a few months' time, my mother's promise would prove to be false. Age 7. The last memory I have of my parents being together was on my 7th birthday. Our family got together with Maddie's. We ate lobster on the beach. I remembered my parents being so happy on that day. But thinking back on it, perhaps they were simply putting on a front so that I could enjoy my birthday. I wonder how much of the happiness was real and how much it was just for show. I guess I'll never know. Shortly after my birthday, my mother informed me that she and father were getting to a divorce. I was shocked and outraged, and above it all, overwhelmed. Father was to keep the house, and my mother was to take Georgia and me and move to a new, smaller house in Topanga. We would live with our mother during the week, and then I would stay in our father's on the weekend. This event would change my life forever. I remember crying as though about happy times I spent with my mother and father and realized they were all gone now, only exist in a memory. Page 25. Mother's new house was the smallest I'd ever lived in up to that point. So small, in fact, that now I was forced to share a bedroom with my sister, Georgia. Needless to say, that was not a positive change. When father first came to pick us up for the weekend, Georgia cried uncontrollably because she didn't want to leave our mother. I wanted to cry too, but I held myself together. A wave of sadness crept over me as I entered father's house for the first time without mother being an occupant. Her absence from this place was a cold, haunting reminder that the previous week had been a nightmare. It was real. My parents had split apart, and there was nothing that they could put them back together. Our father introduced us to a man, to his best friend named Dan. He had been having some financial issues at this time, was no longer able to remain in his house. He would renting a room at father's house until he got back on his feet. Georgia and I refer to him as Uncle Dan. And he would remain at father's house for many years. 1998. I'm having a few financial troubles. I'll be back on my feet in no time. 1999. I'm having a few financial problems. I'll be back on my feet in no time. 2000. I'm just having a few financial troubles. I'll be back on my feet in no time. I started second grade in Topanga Elementary, and was disappointed that James would not be returning to the same school. James would be retain his position as my best friend, but it looked like we wasn't going to teach somebody else the intricacies of kicking dust. Page 27. The next few months of my life fell into a static cycle. I would spend the week living at mother's house and go to the school each day, and then I would live with father over the weekend. My life was very different than the way it was before, but I was getting used to the changes, but then a few new changes emerged. Father picked me up from the school on a Friday, as he always did, and drove me to his house. But this time, when I opened up the front door, and I walked outside, it wasn't Uncle Dan's smiling face that greeted me. There was a strange woman with a dark hair and fair skin standing in the kitchen. She introduced herself as Somalia. No, Samaya. I had no way of knowing that beneath her friendly exterior lied a vicious, evil demon that would torment me for years to come. I did not know what to make of the stranger. Hold on, sorry, something happened. Oh, god damn it. I need to get a. Yeah, I just use my Vita. Mm, cycle. Okay. I did not know what to make of the strange new woman in my father's house, but soon I learned she was to be my new stepmother, and that she had already moved in. This was baffling to me. How could it be possible that father already found a new woman so quickly after divorcing my mother? This convinced me that father must have been a very attractive man. Attractive, I meant. How else would he snag a woman so quickly? I found myself respecting father even more than before because he was the type of man who women find attractive. And now that I'm older, I understand how toxic this feminine is. Yeah. Even though young children hold more respect for men who easily find a mate, it sickens me that even if from a physiological level, men like me were never meant to be respected by society. And the dark irony is that not lost on me that my father, a man who can easily find a girlfriend, would have a son who would struggle his all his life to find one. Even early on the relationship with Samaya, was strained. However, I misbehaved, so Maya would attempt to punish me. I would rebel against these punishments because she wasn't my real parent and I felt no right. This led to conflicts, many, many conflicts, that would continue the rest of my life. Because we now attended different schools, James and I had an effort to play with each other at least once per week. Around this time, he introduced me to a new phenomenon that was taking the country by storm: Pokemon. Thanks to James, I soon became obsessed with Pokemon. I constantly be playing Pokemon Red, collecting cards, and watching anime. Hey, cool, I caught a Jinx. Jinx is a type of Pokemon I've always desired, but I never able to catch because they all look down on me. If I try to catch a Jinx, it would just reject me cruelly. My mother was still friends with George Lucas, and we were invited to the red carpet premiere of Star Wars Episode 1. I was a huge Star Wars fan at the time, and I still am to this day. This was a huge deal for me. I consider myself very lucky. The experience was absolutely astonishing. I enjoyed the film very much and was part of and the film very much. And the best part I got after it, I ended able to see some of the actors. I shook the hands of Jake Lloyd, the child actor of Anakin Skywalker in the film. My character might be innocent, cute kid now, but he becomes a vicious killer in the future. That's completely unrealistic. The rest of the school year passed very quickly, and before I knew summer's break had arrived. I had a good group of friends to hang out with, a lot of video games to play, and my 8th birthday was right around the corner. Life was good. Page 31, age 8. Third grade was still a time of innocence and optimism. The genders remained segregated during lunch and recess time and without a parasitic influence of women in my life. I was happy. I spent my free time at school
What?
playing with the other boys. Sorry, I lost my focus.
Right.
Playing with the other boys, comparing and trading Pokemon cards with them, and the other shenanigans that came with naive, naivety of a life ignorant of evils of women. The best parts of the gendered separation that girls treated me exactly the same as any other boy. I wasn't the bottom of the male specimen on sexual totem pole. I was just another boy for girls to degrade while they played hopscotch. This wasn't to say I was never interacted with female peers. Maddie was still my friend of mine, and our relationship was waning. Thanks to the divorce of our families were having fewer and fewer get-togethers, so naturally we began to drift apart. My 8-year-old self had no inkling of pain and miseries girls would cause once puberty would inevitably arrive, and my sexual desires for girls would develop. Sexual desires that would be merciless spurred some of the boys in my class would grow up to be embarrassed by girls. Well, I would grow up rejected by them, but at that moment in time, we were just innocent children growing up together. All innocence is destined to be shattered and replaced with bitter brutality. My 8th year was one of the best, most fun periods of my life. There were so many moments of this period that would stick out of my mind. Played Pokemon on the daily basis. The music festival. I went with my mother trick or treating with the rich neighborhoods on Halloween. I went as a dinosaur since all the Ash Ketchum costumes were sold out. This was truly the happiest time of my existence. What is that? Some kind of Charmander?
Charmander's cool.
And he just left. Why did Boo even join?
I don't know. He was in here?
Yeah, he was in there. I guess he was listening, but he didn't say anything. Oh no, I think he was using his PC, which he can't he can't talk on his PC, but he can only hear. No, he can't hear. He can only talk.
Ah,
Because that's what happened last week. He's like he couldn't hear anything, even though everyone was talking to him. The only bad part of that year when Father forced Samaya forced me to spend an entire winter break in Morocco. I was looking forward to spending a long awaited break from school with my friends playing Pokemon, but Father insisted me to join them in Morocco so I could meet Samaya's family. The trip was not a pleasant one. I found Morocco to be a very strange place, a backwards place. I absolutely hated the food, although the desserts weren't too bad. It was an overall boring experience. It was my first trip to Morocco, and unfortunately, it was going to be my last. Not long after, Father Wood renewed success as a commercial director. He opted to move again, yet again, his time into a much bigger house. Although Father's new house was larger and more opulent neighborhood, I still preferred the time I spent with my mother in a small house. Like Father in Somalia, my mother would always go out of her way to make life more pleasant and enjoyable for me. Age 9. Until this point, I had lived a life immersed in carefree optimism of childhood's blissful ignorance. But now, during the ninth year on this final earth, things would start to change. I had reached to a point of maturity where the injustices of both society and the world would begin to creep into my consciousness and form this point, they would fester and grow into insights and philosophies that would change my perception of existence entirely. Age 9 would be the beginning of the end for my life as a happy child in a world I thought to be good and pure. Life's first frustration was crept into consciousness during the time of my realization that I was shorter than my peers, even girls. Up to this point, my short stature would have been nothing more than a theme park nuisance. But now it's also having social implications. I began to observe that the tallest boys were automatically respected more, whereas a person my height received little to no respect at all. It was the first time I realized that I was inferior to my fears.
yeah.
As I was determined to fix this, however, I refused to sit back and watch my taller peers receive attention and I respect while I was received nothing. I set out to increase my stature by any means necessary. I read that. I read that playing basketball increases a person's height, so I took up the interest in basketball. The hope that it could do the same for me. During recess,
So that's why Plax is so tall.
I would find a basketball and make my way to a court. Unfortunately, no one else wanted to play, so I was left playing by myself. Father had a basketball hoop, so whenever I stayed at his house, I would spend hours each day shooting hoops. After weeks of such practice and training, I felt defeated by the lack of results, so I gave up. Alright, I shot 100 basketballs today. That's gotta be at least worth an inch. In addition to recognizing my short stature by this time, I also began to understand that I was a very jealous person in nature. And at age 9, this jealous nature sprang to surface. When I had playdates over at James' house, he would sometimes invite other friends to play as well. Often this would happen. I would feel left out and cry in the corner until my mother came to pick me up. Dang, you beat me. All right, Elliot, it's your turn. This world is so cruel and unfair. Something has to be done to balance these injustices. Maddie would still occasionally come over, but now that we're older, then she was more interested in playing with my sister Georgia instead. It was bad enough that my male peers were stealing the attention of girls away from me, but now my own sister? This I would cry as well. Jealousy and envy. Those are the two feelings that would dominate my entire life and bring me immense pain. The feeling of jealousy I had at 9 years old were frustrating, but these were nothing compared to how I would feel once I hit puberty and would have to watch girls choosing other boys over me. Any problem I had at 9 years old was nirvana compared to what I was doomed to face. My parents agreed to change our living arrangement. Yet again, Georgia and I would spend one full week at my mother, then one full week at my father's. Due to this increased exposure, I began to have more conflicts with Samaya than before. These conflicts were almost entirely due to unfair rules that she would try to impose on me. For example, I hated how every morning she would force me to drink milk, and for dinner she would dr- make me drink foul-tasting soup. She was never. She knew I hated it. Began to force to drink the soup as a punishment when I behaved. Elliot, you forgot to make your bed this morning. You know what this means. Oh, can't you just beat me with a belt or something instead, you fucking whore? This deplorable soup punishment ended up crippling my social life in a major way.
What? How?
Booze in the chat, like, what the fuck? You listening to Dark Twisted World? This deplorable soup punishment ended up crippling my social life in a major way. Elliot, you forgot to make your bed. One day, my friend Philip and I had play date at our father's house, and Georgia kept annoying us. I yelled to her to leave us alone. As a punishment for screaming at my sister, Samaya forced me to drink the soup in front of my friend. I cried and gagged the soup. Philip sat and watched. I was so embarrassed by this ordeal that I never had a play date at my father's house again. It was instances like these that made me dread these weeks that I had spent with my father's house. She was often out of town to work anyway, so I just stuck under her watchful eyes of Samaya the whole time.
We're reading the other book Mumkey wrote.
No, this is not an audiobook. This is just me,
No,
fam.
the other book that Mumkey wrote. We're reading that.
Yeah, no, that was the actual manifesto. This is the Diary of Supreme Gentleman. Towards the end of my fourth grade, I had a revelation that these were social hierarchies. Oh, yeah, he's not watching, by the way. We find anymore. Because it only says one viewer, and it's just me, so. Towards the end of my fourth grade, I had a revelation that these were social hierarchies, and some people are just better than others. I realized that it wasn't just height, that there was other factors in play that made some of my peers valuable than others. There was a group of cool kids who were more admirable than everyone else. They looked and dressed and acted in ways that made them cooler. Soon after having this revelation, I realized horror that it wasn't cool at all. In fact, the antithesis of everything that made those kids stand out of the crowd. My hairstyle was dorky, my clothes were plain and uncool, and I was too shy to be popular. Plus, this wouldn't help that all the kids were white, while I was half Asian. While being mixed race, while they were all pure, it was going to be even harder for me to fit in with. I stuck out at all. If I stuck out at all, it would be like a sore thumb. I decided that I would do everything in my power to become one of the cool kids, and I immediately frustrated with my parents. So they obviously hadn't done anything over the course of my life helped shape me into being cool. It was the time it matters that my own hands, since I had been so incompetent. Ellie Roger was going to be the coolest kid in school. Step 1, fixing my hair. The field research led me into a conclusion that blonde hair was more beautiful than those of a different hair color. So if I wanted to fit in with the cool kids, I needed to be blonde as well. I convinced my parents to let me bleach my hair blonde, and my father took me to the hairdresser. However, this plan backfired immediately, as the hairdresser claimed I was too young for a full bleaching and only bleached the top of my hair. Upon expecting the new look in the mirror, I was horrified, and now it even looked worse than before. Are you sure this looks okay? Trust me, kid. Bleached tips are the hot new craze that will never go out of style. I make minimum wage cutting children's hair. I know what I'm talking about. I dreaded going to school the next day with my horrendous new hairdo. I was expecting mockery and humiliation. The stomach was in knots. My class as class began to start, classmates said my new hair was cool, and for the next few days of receiving attention and admiration, I've been that I have been that I had have been craving. It might not have gone exactly according to plan, but step one was ultimately a success. Step two was quitting Pokemon. One day in school, I overheard one of the kids said that Pokemon was lame, so I knew it was time to quit. I told James that I'd grown too mature for the game, so it was time as my retirement from the franchise. I gifted him my rare Charizard cards to act resignation from the game. Step 3, I'd become a skateboarder. My obvers, obversation, hold on, obs, observation, observation, there we go, of the cool kids led to the understanding that Pokemon was a lame hobby, but skateboarding was all the rage. All the cool kids owned a skateboard and would skate around with ease. I knew if I would become a master skateboarder, then it would the child's play to then it would be child's play to join the in their fold. I convinced father to buy me a skateboard, and he took me to the shop so I can get a custom one built. I need the Elliott board 1.0, customized to show off my hip and carefree lifestyle. When my
Oh, an
board was
Elliott board.
completed, I took it home and the intention of mastering it as quickly as possible. However, I found it very difficult as to get the hang of it. I first struggled to get the first thing to go anywhere, even to go anywhere. I just like a basketball. I put in hours of practice every single day until I was able to get the hang of it. Before long, I had pretty much good grip of riding the thing, but I wasn't quite ready to show off my skills to the cool kids yet. But I was getting there. Part 3, the last period of contentment. Fourth grade came to a close, and I vowed that I would spend my summer becoming as cool as possible. So at the time of fifth grade rolled around, I would be ready to fit in with the cool kids. I needed to get my skateboard skills up so such a level that the cool kids would have no choice but to acknowledge me. I would have a skateboard at my mother's house, so only at father's, so I would take me in to buy a second one. I also had her buy me several new shirts and skateboards, accompanying my logos of them. I gotta say, 9-year-old me looking pretty cool, decked out in all those clothes while skating down the street. I couldn't spend the summer skating alone, though after a lot of convincing, I got my friends James and Philip to buy skateboards too. They weren't nearly as skilled on the board as I was, but it was a good thing. I definitely leveled her in comparison. A few weeks into summer, father got into quarrel with Uncle Dan and kicked him out of the house. I never saw the man again after that day, since he had no real impact in my life whatsoever, so I'm not sure why he decided to include him in my Grand Manifesto Diary suicide note, but for some reason I did.
I want to hear what happened to him. I want a sequel.
Nah, he's probably just broke on the streets. Let's get real here.
I want to hear Uncle Dan's side.
Yes, the few minutes that he barely saw Elliot Rodger. Let's talk about Uncle Dan. Yeah, that little niglet. All right, now that I was 10, oh yeah, by the way, age 10. Now that I was 10, I was finally old enough to get my entire head of hair bleached blonde rather than just the tips. Samaya took me to a hairdresser, and I was very pleased at the result. My summer-long transformation from lame to cool was coming along quite nicely. I was now skateboarding prowess. The clothes and the blonde hair. Once fifth grade started, I was going to be popular for sure. One evening, I attended a fancy dinner party in Beverly Hills, along with my father, Samaya. I did as I usually do on such evenings. I helped myself to snacks and asked my father for sips of his glass of wine. At some point, I found myself engaged in conversation with my father, an boisterous, middle-aged man whose name I do not remember. Father mentioned something about my plans for the future, but to the man grew a large smile upon his face and started patting me on the head back. He then said to me, "You got a great life ahead of you. In the 10 years you have a great time. A great time." 10-year-old self had no idea what this meant, but now I do. When a boy reaches puberty, a whole new world opens to him, a world of pleasures such as sex and love. Other boys will indeed get the experience of of this world, but it pains me that I will not. This is the basis of my tragic life. These are the pleasures that will be denied to me, but instead will be only experience misery, rejection, loneliness, and pain. Fifth grade began, and it was my time to shine. My plans were about to come to fruition. I had bleached my hair blonde. I had cool shirts. I had a skateboard skills. I surely popularity. But a moment away. But to my great disappointment, despite all the changes and the upgrades I made myself, nobody noticed or cared. They were all absorbed with their own worlds. The plans they failed. The plan had failed. The popular kids disregarded me as such as ever before. Guys, look, I did it. Now I'm just like all of you. Hey, you want to go to a popular kid store after school? Can I got a popular kid meeting at 4:30. Despite this, I didn't lose my interest in skateboarding. I was actually genuinely interested in pursuing it. I even dreamed of becoming a professional skateboarder someday. My mother took me into a skate park every Friday, and I continued honing my skills. James continued skating too. Every Saturday he would sleep over at my mother's house and he would stay up late playing on my Nintendo 64. And then on a Sunday morning my mother would take us to the skate lab, an indoor skate park. I was having fun at the time of my life. These are some of the most precious memories. Winter break came and went and returned to school to the cool kids. Had new interests, hacky sacking. During recess, they would all have a stand in a circle, kicking their sacks in the air with precision and skill. And a boy did they look cool. But I had no choice to but to get a hacky sack. of my own. Surely this is how I would join the group as well. I call this move the Whack Sack Deluxe. It's sick, dude. God, I wish I had a sack. God, I wish I had a fucking bit. I needed to get a hacky sack of my own pronto, so I convinced my mother I would take me out to buy me one. She took me to the PacSun, and I chose a cool orange sack. Wait, what? PacSun? Oh, I spent hours every night practicing my hacky sacks until I was good at it. And the practice paid off. It took a lot of time and effort, but I was eventually quite skilled in keeping my sack in the air. I couldn't wait to show off my skills to the cool kids the next day in school. You can probably guess what happened next.
Here's
They
cool.
didn't seem to care. I hacked and sacked, and well, as well as the best of them. None of the cool kids seemed remotely interested in my skills. My plan just failed again. I don't mean
Yikes,
to
imagine playing with a
talk
hacky
smack,
sack.
but you're a hack when it comes to the sack. Wow, rapping Robbie. So cool. Oh, it's cooler? Nick.
Girl.
Yeah, Boogos23. Subscribe to Boogos23. While my weeks at mother's house, still amazing and wonderful, my weeks at the father's, anything but. You know what you should do? You should add a couple people to make them watch the stream.
I don't want to make anyone watch the stream. They can just find it on their own. Huh?
I mean, it's pretty gamer though, I'm not gonna lie.
Not gonna lie, not gonna lie.
My weeks, oh yeah, dude, they're doing a meetup. Boogost and
Yeah,
Fat Bunny, they're meeting up
exactly
today.
the anime. I'm gonna call Fat Bunny doing it.
Yeah, they're gonna do the Twitch live stream on Boogost. He's
Yeah,
gonna post it.
Yeah, I'm gonna call Fat Bunny before they start, so I can say hi to Blue Ghost.
Wait, they live in. Boo lives in Oregon?
No, he lives in Sacramento.
Then how are you gonna meet him?
I'm gonna call Fat Bunny and say hello.
Oh, you're gonna call him. You're just gonna. Okay. Alright. Well, my weeks at my mother's house were still amazing and wonderful. My weeks at father's house were anything but. After being traumatized by the soup incident, I was still too afraid to invite my friends over at my father's house. Because of this, Samaya became convinced I had no friends, and she set to fix this.
Where were you when the soup incident happened?
Her version of helping me make friends was forcing me to a group of skateboarding kids who were playing down the street. I've always been very shy and timid person, so the prospect, the pros, the prospect of approaching a group of kids I'd never met before, introducing myself was terrifying. I told Samaya that I felt too anxious to approach them, but she didn't care. She locked me out of the house and told me I wasn't allowed back inside until I became friends with them. I still lacked the nerve to speak to them, so I hid near a nearby street corner and hoped I could trick Samaya into thinking I actually approached the group and somehow saw through this deception and quickly confronted me. Ain't I a stinker? She then forced me to approach the kids and asked if I could play with them. To my utter surprise, they were very kind and welcoming towards me. And we were actually had a great time playing together. My mother got tickets to the world premiere of Star Wars Episode 2. And I was delighted that she would allow me to invite James to attend the film with us. We were awestruck by the movie and found it absolutely phenomenal.
We stayed up all night discussing the film. We enjoyed it. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but something about Anakin Skywalker's character really spoke to me.
What was it?
The murdering part.
Oh, okay.
I was becoming overwhelmed with frustration that all my attempts to join the cool crowd had failed. I had gone through a complete transformation. In order to please them, I changed my hair, I improved my style, I learned to skateboard, and master hacky sack. But these endeavors all proved fruitless, as it seemed as nothing I could do to earn the respect and attention I craved. I began to feel socially nomad at my school. I was the boy who traveled from group to group, always trying to fit in but never fully integrating anywhere. It was like I was an outcast who didn't belong anywhere. And I think everyone felt that way about me. Thankfully, a wrench was soon thrown into my life's loneliness plan and that I had been set out for me. A new seating arrangement in class introduced me to a boy named John. Joe and two of us became best friends. Meeting John and Joe definitely raised my spirits about my social standing, and we had a fun relationship while it lasted a long time. By the time the school year was coming to close, I was having so much fun that I never wanted fifth grade to end. Surely my schemes for popularity had fallen flat, but otherwise, elementary school was mostly a one experience. That the main reason why I didn't want elementary school to end was because I knew that next was coming next was middle school. Just the thought of attending middle school instantly filled me with anxiety. I had heard many rumors that middle school life was like they chilled me to the very core with fear. There was a lot of talk about girls and how it was cool and popular to be with girls. This was a paradigm shift that I was completely unprepared for.
Isn't it always popular to be with girls? Like, I thought
Well, that's to Elliot Rogers' understanding.
it was, I mean, like, not in elementary school, because they have cooties.
No, middle school.
Yeah, it was always, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's the social norm, that it's cool to be, like, have a girlfriend.
Hmm.
How could you not, like, he had to have known that. Like, I'm pretty sure he stated that he respected
Yeah,
his father
dude,
for
this is
having a
his
girlfriend.
manifesto. He knew that.
Alright, whatever. Continue.
Okay. Just the thought of it. Oh, I know, I already read that. Okay. And you got a different teacher for each class, plus all the coolest kids to kiss girls. Whoa, that's crazy. I am so fucked. And fuck these hoes.
Bros before hoes.
Girls were completely foreign creatures to me. I was accustomed to only playing with boys. Boys played with boys and girls played with girls. That's the way it was supposed to be. I was innocent and pure, and most of all, it was fair. Though of having to interact with girls were completely overwhelming, and I tried to block these thoughts from my head. It seemed, however, that I was the only boy in my class who didn't feel ready to start sexualizing. At the end of the fifth grade, our class went on a camping trip, and I found myself spending the night in the cabin with five other guys. One of them pulled out a magazine he had stuck with him. It was full of pictures of beautiful women. All of the boys in the cabin gathered around the magazine and oohed and awed in the contents. I didn't understand the appeal at all. I didn't want to appear uncool and pretended that the women in the magazine were interested me as well, and became perfectly clear that everyone was developing faster than me. I still felt like an innocent little kid, but the world was ready for me to become something else. Damn, she's hot. Look at those tits. Yeah, get a load of that belly button. I don't know. At long last, graduation came by. Again, would I be an elementary student? The future had arrived for me, and there was no going back. My fears were coming alive. I was growing up. After the graduation ceremony, my mother took me out of the sushi restaurant to celebrate. We reflected on this time in elementary school, and I felt so accomplished and proud that how far I'd come. I was happy about the experiences I had, but I was also sad that it was over. As the big day came to a close, I was fully drawn to me that the major chapter of my life was ending and a new one was beginning. A new chapter had filled me with fear and tepor- teperation, trep- trepidation, and would eventually prove my fears to be right. I figured that the final summer before middle school would be my last chance to live life as a carefree child before being thrust into a world that wasn't ready for. Unfortunately, it wasn't long before my high spirits were crushed. My mother continued talking to me to the skate park, something that I still very much enjoyed, but that one day I'd noticed a group of kids were a few years younger than me that were far more skilled on the board. These kids were pulling off cool tricks I was incapable of. In that moment, I realized how much I sucked. I thought I was finally found a sport I could be good at, but these kids proved I was unskilled at skateboarding, at as I was everything else, but I was bitterly angry in the realization that I failed everything and I tried at everything I tried. My
Damn,
dream of
damn.
becoming a professional skateboarder died on that day. I lost interest in skateboarding. Life refused to give me a single success. I was doomed to fail at everything.
Can you ever extinguish for the happiness? Fuck off.
Hmm. You know, it's strange. Somebody actually joined the your video. It used to have two viewers, but now it's back to one. Wonder who joined. Age 11. A few weeks before the new school year began, I got a haircut and decided not to bleach or to be blonde again. I figured since I was starting over in a new school full of people I'd never met before, it would be appropriate to present a newer version of myself. Besides, the blonde hair didn't do much for me in the realm of popularity in the first place, so it wasn't a big loss. So not long after the day that I was haunted my mind with the fear of all summer finally arrived, the first day of middle school I shook with fear and anxiety as I got ready for the day. Things were different now. Things were different. I no longer was I a carefree child who could happily enjoy school. Now that I was older, I actually worried about people would think of me. I dreaded coming across as unpopular or desirable. Panic was setting in. I had no idea to act as a middle schooler. I didn't know how to act around girls. I didn't know what was cool anymore, and I didn't know how I was going to start over at school where I didn't have any friends. On the first few days of school, I withdrew into a defensive shell, too timid to speak to anyone. Instead of communicating with my classmates, I observed them. I focused meanly on how I acted, on how they acted, who the cool kids were, and what were they into. Perhaps I studied them, I would become them. Man, I sure like music. Yeah, dude, music is cool. Music, cool. Good stuff, good stuff. Okay. My initial conclusion was about the cool kids apart from the rest of us, that they were overly confident and aggressive. These traits were intimidated me, and I found myself hating them. But the strange thing was, despite the fact that I hated them and was disgusted by their obnoxious behavior, I also deprivedly wanted to become friends with them. While hiding in my shell, I also began to observe that the girls who upsettingly were all seemed to be taller than me. To make matters worse, was disgusted to watch as the girls flocked to the obnoxious jerks in my class. These boys were loud, aggressive morons, and the girls couldn't have been more interested in them. This taught me to be an important lesson way back at the age of 11 that the world is a brutal place and human beings are nothing more than savage animals. Everything father had taught me up to this point had been disproven. He taught me to be polite, kind gentleman, but clearly this was wrong. In the real world, girls don't flock to gentlemen. They flock to alpha males and erratic, recluse, abominable brutes. Women are like children. They are attracted to power and status rather than kindness and politeness. Hello, fair maiden. Could I interest you in a drink if you're choosing?
Why
No way,
don't
creep.
why
Also,
don't you just rape someone on the first
yeah,
fucking date?
and just consent is a lie. They always say yes when they're about to die.
You can try to stop him, but as much as true. Elliot gets laid because he's stronger than you.
Fuck women. Sup, bitch? Wanna bang? Take my virginity, please. Due to my shy, observant nature during the first week of school, I quickly earned the reputation of shy new kid. This isn't to say I was ignored. To my surprise, it was delightful. The girls in school actually, I think they found my shyness to be cute. The pretty girls in school liked to give everyone hugs, so as a form of greeting, I was no exception. I was very welcoming to these hugs. I didn't understand why. Girls that feeling ever. Those hugs enraptured me, every fiber of my being. Cruelly, those hugs in sixth grade were the last female contact I would ever have in my life. I would never again would feel enrapturing glow of a woman's embrace or affection. One day during class, I was called into the office. I had no idea what about, but I'd hoped I wasn't in trouble. When I arrived, I found my mother there, and she told me that we were leaving, and she appeared to be upset. And I remained in the dark as I followed her to the car. When we got in the car, she told me bad news. James' mother had just passed away from breast cancer, and I began to feel sick. Poor James, just a kid like me.
What I
He
don't
was.
get, if women don't want breast cancer, why don't they just don't have breasts? Like, that
Yeah,
reduces the risk infinitely.
yeah, that's such a life hack. Triforce, I think you just cured breast cancer, bro.
Yo,
James' family had a get together at their house that night, and my mother and I went. I found James sitting alone in his room, his face immersed in deep sadness. I offered my condolences for he tried to hide his emotions from me, but I statistically told me what he accepted what happened. His mother was dead, and that was the end of it. I didn't know what to say, and we never spoke of it again. Later that evening, James and I played tag in the backyard with the other children. I couldn't understand his grieving process, but I guess he didn't think about it too far along. My little brother Jazz is about that age now, and I wondered if
Jazz?
he'll react to the news as James did, but I probably won't be giving him the opportunity to grieve. Despite the occasional hugs from pretty girls, I was still social outcast of school. I hadn't made any friends, desperate for companionship, so it was no surprise I ended up hanging out with the biggest bully in school, a boy named Connor. The girls liked pompous, obnoxious guys, but Connor was the exception. He was generally aggressive and mean-spirited boy who nobody wanted to hang out with. But in my desperation, I settled for his companionship. He of ten this of often pushed me around, and I tried to act tough, but I was too timid to care. One day when Mother was picking me up from school, he saw Connor and I together, she and was delighted to see that I had made a friend. She introduced herself to him and invited him over to play date without asking me. I worried about having somebody visit me at my mother's house because she lived in a very small house and undesirable neighborhood, and my classmates were all rich, and these worries would soon be proved valid. Connor came over and spent the evening playing video games. We had a decent time, but next day at school, first fears come to life. Connor went to everyone that I lived in the house, and I was a poor kid. I felt humiliated and desperately wanted to prove him wrong. I tried to tell her father lived in gigantic successful and a commercial director, and I even went out as far as proving
Poor
a
parents.
photographic evidence. I wanted to invite people over to my father's house to prove Connor was wrong. I was still traumatized by Samaya's soup incident, but so I wasn't too scared to bring anyone over to my father's house. Hey everyone, Elliot's family is poor. No, we aren't. In fact, one day my father is going to direct a very successful documentary. Then he's going to be filthy rich. You'll see.
What was
You'll
the
all see.
documentary called?
Oh my god.
Was it good? Was it Lamau?
Back in the days when Asperger was still streaming, I used to shitpost that movie. It's like, oh yeah, oh my god, it's better than Whiplash. Just to fuck with them, and it actually worked. Like, oh my god, it's probably possibly one of the worst documentaries ever made. And it's probably one of the greatest shitposts you can ever make, because like you have something that's actually good, and then you say something, then you say, "Oh my god, it's better," and it's like, dude, you're wrong.
What was a better documentary? Joker. Oh my god.
See, obviously it would be Joker, but if you were shitposting, you would say, "Oh my," because
Oh
you
my
can easily
god, it's
shitpost.
Joker. I think that's
This
it.
this incident with Connor deepened my social void that I had fallen into. I felt as though I was completely incapable of making friends at school, and I wondered if I was able to make friends ever again. I wouldn't. It wouldn't be long until the social void would be filled with numerous friends that I would make on AOL Instant Messenger. The internet was still a relatively new phenomenon at the time, and I was fascinated by it. But with just a few clicks, I could find myself in a chat room, communicating with strangers from all around the world using AOL Instant Messenger. I was able to befriend fellow middle school and high schoolers from around the country. I found it much easier to make friends online than in real life. Elliot, would you like to be my friend?
You think?
Okay.
Do you think anyone tried to groom Elliot?
What?
You think anyone tried to groom Elliot online?
I mean, you probably didn't go on those boards, and plus AOL at the time. I mean, there wasn't as much groomers as there did later on. Like it was pretty much early. No one really cared at the time, but then like later on it did.
Yeah.
However, you're talking about like the really early versions of AOL, so it's pretty much like, who cares? So I don't think it was groomed. Maybe later AOL, but I don't think so far.
Right. I don't think so, like early. No groomers were that early.
The groomers weren't grooming back on early AOL. That's what I'm just trying to say.
Right.
The
Dysentery
AOL
King
chat
wasn't
room
there
was
then.
what?
And then I wasn't that a thing? Dysentery King was like grooming Barry or something.
I don't know, dude. You never told me who Barry
Yeah,
was.
Rumble. I mean, Rumble's Barry. Barry is
Oh,
Rumble.
so that's her new name. Because back in our old servers, she was.
Profile pic? Not profile. What Dysentery actually looks like?
What?
What Dysentery looks like?
What does he look like?
It's bad. I think Destiny still has the photo.
Yeah, because back in the Rumble old server that I have my third alt on it right now, it's like her message was like, "Hey, I'm not gonna be using the name Rumble. No, I'm pretty much leaving, and the server is dead." So yeah, and then that was cool and all, and that server had no point anymore after that. So, huh?
It's just there to archive everything.
Yeah. No, it's funny.
What?
Just Tech. I kind of fell for you, like a lot.
I just love everything about you. The way you, the way you geek out about things. The way you
God,
giggle
imagine
whenever something
unironically
funny
posting
happens.
that. Ah, Jesus Christ.
Right now, kind of stoned, my guy.
Dude, I fucking told that guy too. He's like, dude, one day you're gonna get fucking mocked and bullied. And he's like, no, you're fucking stupid.
Wait, did he? Okay, who shared that? Mumble or him?
No, Just Tech posted it, and then
Why
it
did
kind
he
of became a copy pasta.
post it?
Yeah, it was Just Tech, which, back in the day, I was like,
It's like
fuck you,
10
Just Tech.
times more confusing. Why did he post that?
Yeah, it's on a channel, uh, Justin Technology, I think? Or is it Just Technology?
There's a Justin Technology dramatic I know there's a dramatic reading of that text.
Yeah, the dramatic reading. Yeah, and it tells you the name was Just Tech, and now he doesn't. Now he's like not existing anymore. Do you have an update on Just Tech?
He did a face camera live stream one time. Like I sent the link in one of the servers, and everyone bullied him, so he turned off the face cam. It's so funny.
So
He's
is he on Discord still or no?
Yeah, he's friends with Drang still, and Rally and Gene.
Okay then.
He has
Yeah,
his
because he
own
used to
little
be
thing.
really big on the Rumble Discord, but that's not. How come the Barry server you can't? Is the invites blocked like sheep's?
It's supposed to be like a secret server. I don't know. Everyone's doing that. I don't know why.
Yeah, because Boo
Barry
was
is very
calling.
toxic, honestly. I posted one dead rat and she kicked me one time.
Yeah, because thing is, the Boo was calling the server like lame and like boring.
And
And he
the
was like,
live
"Why would
stream?
anyone ever go on that server? It's really stupid."
Because
So,
there's already a VC there. There's already an established VC. And I was like, all right, guys, I'm gonna do the Triforce podcast, and everyone didn't care, so I did it. That's
but on the
that's
Barry server though.
because there's already a VC there.
Yeah, but you could have chosen any other Discord servers though.
The VCs anywhere. I only do Triforce podcast when there's already an existing VC that's active.
Oh, so you just interrupt?
Yeah,
Oh, that's pretty funny.
yeah, that is.
Okay.
That's why it's a good bit. Sometimes it's not even podcast. Sometimes I just stream.
Yeah.
Alright.
I
Do you
kind
want
of
to
fell
finish the
for you.
book or do you want to go to bed? How much is there left?
There's a lot of it still left.
Alright, we can finish it tomorrow. God, you should post.
I kind of fell
You
for
should
you. Like,
take a picture of all of the things on your phone and then just like upload it to Imager or something.
I
Make
kind
it
of fell
free.
for you like a lot.
I don't know how to reply right now. Kind of stoned, my guy.
Just